Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking some profound spiritual realities that are literally hidden right in plain sight within the physical construction of the Ancient Ark. We're looking specifically at the incredibly rich texts from Exodus 37. We're diving into a structure that has absolutely fascinated historians and theologians for millennia. But we are moving way past just the physical dimensions, the wood and the metal. We really want to uncover what it represented back then, and honestly, what those ancient symbols mean when we decode them for us today.
But to really get it, to grasp its profound meaning, we've got to ask a pretty fundamental question. Why was this elaborate structure built in the first place? It wasn't just some architectural flex to show off ancient wealth, and it definitely wasn't just a fancy storage box for old artifacts. So what was it doing? The tabernacle and the ark deep inside it served a totally vital function. It was the absolute epicenter of their spiritual universe, the meeting point between the divine and humanity.
To see this clearly, it helps to look at the original language. The Hebrew word used for ark here is aran, and here is a wild detail. Aran is the exact same word used earlier in the text for Noah's Ark. That is a massive, deliberate connection. It frames the Ark of the Covenant not as some weapon of war or a mystical battery, but entirely as a vessel of God's saving grace. Just like Noah's Ark carried humanity through the storm, this ark was a designated means of salvation and rescue.
Section 1. Center of the camp. Let's zoom out for a second. Think about where this ark was actually placed within the community. When the Israelites set up camp out there in the harsh wilderness, the tabernacle wasn't just shoved off to the outskirts like some afterthought. It was positioned in the exact dead center of the camp, with all the tribes radiating outward from it in perfect symmetry. The underlying message here? It's crystal clear. God's presence is meant to be at the very center of our daily activities, anchoring everything else.
It wasn't tucked away on some distant, inaccessible mountain peak where only the spiritual elite could reach it. No, it was pitched right there in the middle of their everyday lives. It was exactly where they cooked, where they socialized, worked, and raised kids. It beautifully illustrates how much God actually desires to be intimately involved in our everyday, mundane routines.
Moving on to Section 2, the pure gold seat.
Now let's zoom in on the ark itself, specifically its lid. This is arguably the single most important component of the whole shebang. Widely known as the mercy seat or the atonement cover, this wasn't just a lid to keep the dust out. It was the exact, literal location where the high priest sprinkled blood once a year for the ultimate forgiveness of sins. It was defined entirely by grace and immense mercy, the physical meeting place between a perfectly holy God and a flawed humanity. And check out the material used here. The text explicitly points out that the mercy seat was constructed entirely of pure gold. That's not just because gold was expensive. It was a highly deliberate, symbolic choice. Think about pure gold for a second. It doesn't tarnish, it doesn't rust, it literally never degrades no matter what it faces. It perfectly illustrates God's unchanging, incorruptible love. While our human emotions are all over the place, that pure gold love remains totally constant. But here is a profound detail that is so easy to miss. God could have miraculously dropped this solid gold seat right out of the sky, right? Fully formed. Instead, he allowed human hands, specifically a master craftsman named Bezalel, to construct the very throne where his divine presence would rest. He deliberately chose to partner with humanity, letting a person's daily work and artistic skill create something utterly holy. It completely elevates the dignity of human labor. Section 3. Decoding the Ark's contents. So, what makes this golden vessel even more fascinating is what was actually placed inside of it. According to the records, specifically detailed over in Hebrews, the ark originally held 3 crucial items. You had a golden jar holding manna, you had Aaron's rod that miraculously budded with almonds, and you had the 2 stone tablets of the covenant containing the 10 commandments. 3 distinct items representing God's physical provision, his chosen authority, and his moral law. Now, as we trace the history of the Israelites, this really specific mini-narrative unfolds. We watch them go from desperate wandering in the wilderness to eventually settling down in Canaan, all the way to the grand dedication of Solomon's magnificent temple. And across that timeline, a mysterious vanishing act happens right inside the ark. Yeah, by the time the ark is finally placed inside Solomon's temple, 2 Chronicles gives us this wild detail. Only 1 item remained inside. Out of the original 3 priceless artifacts, 2 of them were completely gone. Which brings us to Section 4, the era of the Word. So where did they go? Well, this disappearance wasn't some historical accident. It marked a monumental shift in how God interacts with his people. The manna, representing that daily miraculous food from the sky, and Aaron's rod, representing visible defense, those were strict wilderness needs. Once they settled in Canaan and started planting crops and building a nation, those highly visible, daily miracles just weren't the primary way God was going to sustain them anymore.
The crucial takeaway here is what was left, just the stone tablets. This signifies a massive transition into the era of the Word. It shows us that while seasons of dramatic, visible miracles might pass or change shape over time, the moral truths and divine promises carved into those stones, they endure forever. That unchanging Word was what they needed to rely on moving forward.
All right, Section 5, the moving temple.
And this brings us to the ultimate twist regarding the Ark's physical design. Unlike the massive, immovable statues of other ancient cultures, the Ark of the Covenant was explicitly built with gold rings on its corners and long wooden carrying poles inserted right into them. From day one, it was engineered so that it could be picked up, hoisted onto the shoulders of the priests, and continuously moved.
The message here is absolutely groundbreaking. God's throne was never meant to be trapped in a static, immovable building. It was always intended to be a moving tent, an active presence, advancing with his people wherever they went, adapting to their environment, and staying right alongside them through every single transition. Understanding this ancient design kind of forces a deeply personal question for us today. Think about it. If the very center of spiritual life was designed to be mobile and forward-moving, we gotta ask ourselves, is your faith static? Is it just confined to a specific building once a week? Or is it a moving, dynamic force that actually goes wherever you go? Because here's the beautiful reality for the modern era. Because of Christ's sacrifice, the veil was torn. Now every single believer is considered the literal dwelling place of God. You function as a moving temple. Wherever you walk, wherever you work, the presence of the divine goes right there with you. You are carrying that pure gold, unchanging love out into the world. So I want to leave you with this one final, provocative thought to really chew on. As you head out to work, or to school, or just manage your home today, are you actively carrying God's unchanging word right into the center of your daily life? You are the vessel now. How are you going to carry it forward today?